Welcome to GTR Solo from Waves. I'm Bradley Denniston, and I get to show you around this whole plugin suite and do some really cool stuff with you guys. So let's tap right into the plugins, the Stomp pedals, and put them on vocals, bass, guitars, and use them in ways you may not have thought of before. First off, I'm going to give you a nice A/B before and after of all the GTR Solo and Stomps on and off.
Late night, darling, on the run, going my arm in on your tongue. And I want it all along. We used to talk about it all night.
To start out, I want to show you what I've done on the drum mix bus with the GTR Stomp 6. I probably only need the GTR Stomp 2 for this because I'm only using 2 pedals, but I always like to have available slots to add more to it. So the first thing I'm doing is this bass pitcher, and this is really fun. I just want to show you what it's doing. I'm going to bypass the lady, and let's hear just the drums going through the bass pitcher. This is a really fun plugin to add more movement to rhythmic parts, and I think it works really cool on drums. And now let's add the lay D and give ourselves a little bit more delay and some stereo effects. So as you can hear, it gives you a lot of space and dimension and just little textures in the rhythmic elements. Now moving on and adding in the bass, I have the GTR Solo and the GTR Stomp on here. But the Solo is where you can add a lot of different things. For example, you have a whole Stomp section, and then you have the amp, you have the tuner, and the presets. I have on the amp right now just a GTR bass amp. So if you go and click on this down arrow, you're going to see bass, clean, drive, all that stuff. But I really like any of these to start on the bass. They all sound really great. Super Tube is one of my favorites. And then you could kind of mess around with the EQ as well. So as you can hear, by just switching the amp type, you can go from like a direct tube preamp sound all the way up to an overdriven bass sound. And then I followed it up with the GTR Stomp 4. I'm doing a lot of compression here, and I really like compression on bass. I like to anchor it and keep it in one spot. So I'm using the compressor and the axe press in serial, back to back, and then we're hitting this tone stomp. Let's hear this all bypassed in and out on the bass. Just helps the bass stand up and sound more live. Now let's hear GTR where it really shines, and that's on actual guitar. So on the electric guitar, I have the GTR Stomp 4 here, going from mono to stereo to open up some stereo effects like chorus, and also the spring reverb here. So we have a compressor, a chorus, and a spring. And just listen to how beautiful this makes this guitar. If you wanted a drier tone and you just wanted to use that chorus, that's a really cool effect to me. But the spring really opens it up and just gives you a really nice pad for the track. Now let's hear something that GTR Solo really does well with, and that's overdrive. So if you wanted to go from a clean tone to a driven tone, this is what I recommend. I like the edgy amp type. And then what I typically do is take the bass down, the mids down, and throw the treble up. And then you could change the microphones and the cabinet. So if you wanted something tighter, or if you wanted something more low end, it really depends on how big your speakers, your drivers would be, right? So I like something pretty tight and punchy in the mids. So I'm doing that. And then I have the dynamic 409 on axis. And on axis just means it's right on the cone, and we're going to get a lot of mid-range and top-end drive. So let's hear this bypassed in and out on the electric guitar to give you some crunch. Really love that. It adds some nice top harmonics into the guitar. Sounds really great, especially on those power chords. Now I want to show you how you can really spice this up even more by adding some stomp pedals at the end of it. So what I have here is another overdrive and a doubler. I'm going to kill the overdrive here, and I'm just going to give you the doubler. I think that just fits the track a little bit better with the doubler on, so I'm going to keep that going. Now, before I get to the lead vocal and show you some really cool effects that I'm doing with the lead vocal, I do want to show you something kind of surprising that I sometimes do with the guitar stomp. I'll throw it on the master bus, which I know is kind of unheard of, but this axe press is a really great compressor, and it really helps you give a little bit more lift and volume for my master bus, and also just kind of glues things together. And then I have a little EQ setting here, which I really like on the master bus to give it just a little bit of a smiley face curve, ducking out a little bit of the low mids. Let's hear this before and after on the master bus. Really brings the low level information up, and it sounds really good to me. So I kept it on, and then I'm following that just by the L2 limiter there. Now, of course, you can utilize the StudioVerse and do some really cool effects chains with the GTR Solo and the Stompboxes. What I got here in the StudioVerse on my vocals is the Waves real-time tune, and then I have the CLA 76 giving me some compression on the vocals, and then I have the GTR Stomp 4. We got some EQ, some compression, delay, and reverb. And let's just bypass this in and out so you can really hear what this is doing on the vocals.
Late night, darling, on the run. Got my arm in on your tongue. Late night, darling, on the run. Got my arm in on your tongue.
Now let's hear it all in the mix together.
Late night, darling, on the run. Got my arm in on your tongue. And I want it all along. We used to talk about it all night.
So as you can hopefully hear, GTR Solo, GTR Stomp, huge creative effects collection for a lot more than just guitars. Hopefully this video got your creative juices flowing and you go make something really cool with them.